The following podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed therein are solely those of the individuals speaking. Additionally, this podcast will contain swearing, discussions of sexual content, and discussions specifically of purity culture. So listener discretion is advised. And now for the fun part. When I say doctor, you say who? Doctor who? Doctor who? When I say much, you say ado. Much ado. Much ado.
I learn in this letter that Don Pedro of Aragon comes this night to Messina.
Welcome to A Niche Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new. I am your host, Jasmine Garcia. And joining me today on another very large recording is...
Shh. Yeah, hi, I'm Sam Marcioni, but right now I'm trying to spy on two people who are being tricked into admitting they have feelings for each other, so shh.
I'm here to support the sarcastics and getting their heads out of their asses. It's River.
Hi, this is Callie, and I'm here to redeem all the broken, sad white boys.
I am Connor, and the record know that I am an ass.
Slowly applying paint to my entire body, I am Addie Greenberg sued.
This might be the best intro I've ever had. Thank you, guys.
We're off to a banging start, folks.
And as you can probably tell from the cold open, we are going to be covering a very particular production of William Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, the 2011 production starring David Tennant and Catherine Tate in honor of them finally reuniting for the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who.
Which, God, we're recording this before we know what happens in the episode. Russell T. Davies, what are you doing, you madman?
Do not hurt me again.
No, we're not.
I've been referring to him as the once and future doctor.
I swear to God, if Excalibur somehow turns up, all the Merlin fangirls are going to be so...
And also we could talk about it.
Dude,
Right?
This would be one of the many episodes we could technically talk about on this podcast.
Yay!
Alright, we should probably not go too far down that rabbit hole, otherwise we would be a very different podcast this week.
But anyway, so what is everyone's connection to Much Ado About Nothing?
I was a tech for a production of Much Ado in high school my sophomore year, because at the time, that theater teacher's pattern was play in the fall, Shakespeare in the winter, musical in the spring. Or like if we weren't doing a Shakespeare, we were doing like another classic play. Like one year we did Crucible. That was the play that almost never happened because of 30 Inches of Snow, but we're getting off topic. Point is that my freshman year of high school, I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to do in terms of like working in theater. I had auditioned on a whim in the fall for that play, and I got a part, and I was like an old lady, and it was very funny because I was the youngest person in the cast because I was the obligatory freshman. I got one really funny gag about trying to pour liquor and then looking into the cup, realizing I didn't have enough liquor and pouring more in. That was my one funny gag in the entire play. I had to learn to tango, which was a choice. But for the winter play, I was like, okay, I want to try doing backstage runner stuff. So I was like doing all the running around backstage, which mostly, like for that play, we were not as prop heavy as we could be. So it mostly meant trying to get the guy who was playing Dogberry, who I say this with all affection in the universe I have for this guy, or at least the version of him that lives in my memory, a bit of a stoner and a bit of a disaster. And there was a reason that every time I saw him after the fact, I used to joke, hey, you're not dead in a ditch. Basically making sure that he got on stage. He was a great Dogberry. Absolutely fantastic Dogberry.
I feel like that works for Dogberry.
Like one time he came off stage at one point and he's like, yeah, I couldn't make the quick change fast enough. So I'm in like 3 pairs of pants right at the moment. I'm in like my costume pants, the pants I usually wear, and a pair of gym shorts. And I'm like, incredible, David. But yeah, that production was like, Much Ado is a strange play. Like it's a proto rom-com, but only so far. And it's, freshman year. So it's with a lot of actors who like I regarded regarded at the time as relatively talented, and like most of the seniors that year went on to go do theater in college or whatever. And it was a lot of fun to do, but I don't remember like seeing it much because I was sitting in the wings the entire time. Rule 0, don't fuck over the techies. If you fuck over the techies and the director finds out, you're out. That was my theater's rule.
So I actually feel like I should go next. First off, I want to say this started with, high school. I did a Shakespeare class my senior year that included watching the Branagh version, which has its good points, has its bad points.
It has Keanu Reeves in it, and I cannot get over it.
I will defend Keanu Reeves as Don John. That was not a terrible casting. But as part of that class, my teacher took us down from Boston to New Haven, Connecticut to the Yale Repertory Theater, where a 1960s version called These Paper Bullets was happening. So imagine the guys as basically the Beatles, and Hero got turned into like a supermodel Twiggy equivalent called Higgy. But the songs in These Paper Bullets were done by Billy Joe Armstrong. Honestly, the most I remember about that was the guy playing Leonardo. He sang My Wild Irish Rose and made us all sing along with it. It was fun. I had fun with that. Then, I think that was also the year that Joss Whedon's version of Much Ado came out.
Yes.
I didn't see that, but I didn't see that version in full. I did watch Kyle's review of it because, I was at the beginning of my marathon of his Shakespeare videos.
Oh, I made a playlist.
And then we fast forward into 2016, and Hero becomes one of the women that I put into my then one-act play. I'm trying to convert it into a two-act play, but I mentioned this in the If I'm Being Honest episode. Hero is a part of it. I'm now trying to expand it into a two-act, and it might be that I pair her off with Imogen as like a couple because they have kind of similar story beats, but that means this production was kind of a bummer for me because her mom's name is Imogen now, and suddenly it's weird. But anyway, yeah, I have that play in my back pocket. And then a couple of years ago, the Commonwealth Shakespeare Company did a production that I really liked. It was kind of like this production in terms of being like fun and 80s, and Benedict and Beatrice were interracial lesbians, and I loved them.
Callie, you got your wish.
And that was fun.
Excellent.
I do like this play in a lot of ways, but I like it much more as a Benedict and Beatrice story than I do as a Claudio and Hero story.
I mean, does anyone really watch it for Hero and Claudio story?
Well, it kind of seems like Callie
Not for
does.
Hero and Claudio being together, but we'll get into that.
We're not there yet,
Wild.
Sam. We're not there yet.
Much ado about nothing. I have much ado nothing experience with much ado about nothing. I don't really have any experience with much ado about nothing.
Other than me fangirling over it at you.
Correct. I have not seen any of the teeny bopper movie adaptations that I can think
There
of.
are none.
I don't think there's a teeny bopper adaptation.
Shockingly, no.
I know, right?
Which
It seems like
weird.
10 Things I Hate About You was so good.
Wait, I
You'd
thought that
think they
one
would have
with-
followed it up with
That
like,
one, I thought-
this is an obvious
No,
one.
they did Othello
Right.
instead.
Why?
Don't remind me.
Callie, 10 Things I Hate About You is Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yes,
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 yes.
yes.
Taming of the Shrew,
I was
Callie.
saying that they did that one and then they should have done, like, because it was really popular when it came out. Everybody basically immediately responded to this with, like, this is one of the best Shakespeare adaptations ever, bar none. And it's wild that they didn't do that with Much Ado, because, like, why?
Especially since Much Ado's politics as my internet boss, because here's the fun fact about my internet boss, the first video they ever did was a summary of Much Ado About Nothing. But as they put out, they're like,
So Prince Trustworthy, the Forgettables, and that old guy decide to totally hook up the sarcastics with each other by the devious means of telling each one that the other likes them. Because if it works in 5th grade, it's got to work on 2 intelligent grown adults. But because this is a comedy, it totally does, and the sarcastics fall head over heels for each other, requiring this gratuitous montage of the two of them apparently regressing back to the age of 5.
Oh my god, Jazz, there are 4 different YA adaptations that came one right after the other from 2016 to 2019.
But none of them were like feature films, I'm guessing.
No, they're all books, but oh my
Yeah. I usually save mine to the end, but I will say, like, that was literally one of the first things that helped this play click for me, was realizing, oh wait, no, this would be perfect in either a high school or a soap opera. But anyway.
So, yes, I don't have a lot of Shakespeare experience. Period. This was actually one of the first live actual Shakespeare productions that I've ever seen. I've usually either read it or Read it.
My connection with Much Ado specifically is pretty tenuous. The one thing is that I love Shakespeare. I've always loved Shakespeare. I've been in love with the complete work since I was a tiny child. And this is one of the few plays of Shakespeare that I watched before I read. And I actually still haven't read it. And part of that is kind of a point of pride because like I've seen it on stage and then I saw the Kenneth Branagh version and now I've seen this one. And it's so like goofy that unlike many of the tragedies where I feel like reading the text helps me understand it on the stage, when I then go and sit down, I can see what's happening here. I get it. This one, no context needed. I can, even if I don't think there was a point where I was ever confused watching this play the first time, because there's so much activity, because there's no blocking inherent to the scripts. Shakespeare doesn't always give you the activity, but you can't do this play without there being so much movement in and out of the sides of the stage. Everybody's listening on everybody else. You always have like the control of information is really important to this play, and so you have to do it in blocking, and it's fucking awesome. So yeah, that's I like this play a lot.
My experience or connection to Much Ado About Nothing is very limited. I have never seen the play staged. I've seen very little Shakespeare actually staged live. I have seen Kenneth Branagh's adaptation several times and enjoyed it every time. I have seen Joss Whedon's version once and remember nothing about it.
Fair enough, as you should.
But I appreciate play. I appreciate the work itself as one of the best examples of Shakespeare's comedy chop. It's funny that it was referred to as a proto-romantic comedy. There's nothing proto about it. It's a romantic comedy. It has all the elements of a romantic comedy. It's just that all the elements are taking place involving the couple that we don't care about.
Including but not limited to the third act breakup.
They have the meet cute, they get to know each other, fall in love. You have the it's not what it looks like moment. The situation could be resolved by conversation and trust, but that would not make for a very interesting story. So you have to have a massive blow up that looks like it's going to end in tragedy for everyone, and then inevitably they come back together and it's a happy ending for everyone, and there is a big dance scene at the end, roll credits over pop song of the day. All of that is happening. It is a romantic comedy. It's just that Shakespeare was smart enough to know that no one cares about the couple that's doing the romantic bit. They just cared about the comedy bit. And the actual interesting couple in romantic comedies is always going to be like, you have your main characters, you have your protagonists, the boy and the girl or what have you, that meet and have the meet cute and do all that rigmarole. And then you have their supporting characters, like the best friends, and they will constantly butt head, but then will inevitably come to some kind of understanding, or in a few cases they will fall in love. And Much Ado About Nothing is the latter. And as per usual, the best friends of our two kind of like main characters, quote, are way more interesting. And so Shakespeare's like, I'll just focus on the interesting characters and I'll make the BS of the romantic comedy their motivating factor. And so Beatrice and Benedict, they're the supporting characters from the romantic comedy that finally get their due. Anyway, that's my connection to Much Ado About Nothing. It's one of Shakespeare's best romantic comedies.
And as for me, I've said it before numerous times, very similarly to Addie, Shakespeare has always kind of been a part of my life. But this was one that came to me later in life, in college, actually. Basically read it for just regular old Shakespeare course. And I'll admit, when I first read it, I was like, this is so stupid. Everybody in this play is stupid. And it took me a while to kind of figure out that, no, this is actually very good. Because I just could not buy the idea that these two people who, at least in my mind, seem to hate each other, were able to be convinced that they like each other by people telling them the other one likes them, basically. I was just like, that makes no sense.
This is my one exception to belligerent sexual tension.
I have a note on that is, I can hold it if you'd like to keep going, but...
If it's the idea that, no, of course they always liked each other, yes, I have come around to that read of it.
Oh no, it's personal. I have had an actual relationship that started with somebody telling me that somebody else was into me. And I never thought of them in that way before, but maybe kinda. Yeah, I could kind of see that. And then I found out that same person had told them that I was into them, and they did the same thing, and we dated for 6 months. So This literally, it works. It works. I
That
swear
is
to God.
wild. Addie, that should not work.
Yes.
Which is another proof that teenagers are stupid and this play is perfect for high school.
Yup.
Exactly. Yes, it absolutely deserves to be adapted in a high school setting. But I will say, yes, I've come to realize, no, sometimes you really do need that extra jostle to see somebody in that way. Like, I do think, at least for some people, their brains kind of protect them from rejection by being all, yeah, no, I'm just not going to see anybody in that way. Oops, I may be telling on myself a bit.
I was about to say, either you need to stop being relatable or I need to go reschedule my therapist appointment. I vote our next, in our retelling episode, be high school Shakespeare's.
I could definitely do that.
I could probably make that happen. That'd be fun.
Much Ado About Nothing works if it's a high school movie, or if they're, in the case of the staging we watched for this episode, like permanently drunk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the subtitle for this production is everyone is sloshed and plastered and horny.
The whole time.
I will say, if you're gonna do a high school retelling, you have to find a good pun for pussy.
Yeah,
Because in
obviously.
case anybody didn't know, Much Ado About Nothing can also be read as Much Ado About No Thing, with thing being slang for vagina. Because the whole play is Much Ado About Nothing going into Hero's vagina.
Hold on a second, Sam. Are you trying to tell me that William Shakespeare, the bard, the foundation of the Western canon, are you trying to tell me that William Shakespeare might have slipped a sex joke into one of his plays?
No, never.
Dylan, I'm suggesting William Shakespeare has done thy mother.
I love you all. I love you all so much. This is why I do this podcast. I will say, there's one particular adaptation that actually has my heart the most of all. Because obviously, I've seen bits of the Branagh version. I've actually never seen the full thing all at once, I don't think. I need to fix that. And I've seen bits of the Whedon version, which I'm sure I'll have to watch for this podcast one day, which...
We don't have to.
You can just resolutely ignore it.
Good.
Here's the thing. What I want to do, because Kyle has gone on record to say he should have been meaner in that video after everything came out about Whedon. I am going to give him the chance to do that, basically. That is going to
I'll allow
be
it
my
then.
present to him.
All right.
Okay, if you're letting Kyle be mean to somebody who deserves it, that's
you.
a legit reason.
All right. Fair enough.
I don't know that I've ever heard Kyle be legitimately mean to anybody.
Right?
That would be fascinating. I wonder what that's like. Does he get quiet? I bet he gets quiet.
You've never seen him go off on Roberto
Oh, that's
Benigni,
true.
then.
Yeah, that was wild.
No, I haven't.
But anyway, one adaptation that I actually do really love, it was actually a fan-made adaptation. It was basically a whole-ass Tumblr blog created by Tumblr user Wormwood and Honey, the Sigh No More tour. Basically, it is all the characters are touring with Pedro Prince, who's like this big rock star, and it's actually kind of a commentary on, how do I put this without using the word cancel culture, because I really don't want to do that, but basically how the absolutely good instinct to call people out when they're doing terrible things can be used to prey upon the marginalized, basically. I will be putting it in the show notes. I still revisit it all the time. In fact, I'm pretty sure I sent it to Callie months ago to kind of try to help them see why this is such a great play.
It did not work.
No, they were lost. I'm hoping that you will visit it another time. But yeah, I do highly recommend it. It's basically telling the story through social media and texting. Really, the only reason this wouldn't work as a book is because she does fan cast. But yeah, I have a lot of affection for this play, and I know for a fact that Benedict and Beatrice is one of the top Shakespeare couples in fandom circles. Like, people just love the bicker kiss.
It's enemies to lovers. Everyone loves enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
It's not even enemies to lovers, because you cannot convince me these two
Yeah.
actually hate each other. They are just rivals to lovers. They are thorns in sides to lovers.
Yeah.
You are the only person at this party who can match me wit to wit, and I hate that so much because I am so used to being the smartest person in the room.
Yes,
I
exactly.
really-
I hate
I
you
got
so
to-
much, and also you're the only person I respect.
If it weren't for the fact that this play, like, hinges around the stupid notions of sexual purity.
I
Like, we all agreed that Beatrice pegs, but...
Oh.
Sorry, hold on.
I've seen versions of this where it plays like Benedict and Beatrice fucked in the past, and part of why they're pissed at each other is because, like, it was a one-night stand and then neither of them called each other.
I get the sense that, like, in the 2011 staging of it, like, I got the feeling like that's how Catherine Tate and David Tennant played it. That Benedict and Beatrice, it was either, like, it was a relationship that ended really badly, or it was, like, a really short-term thing. And both of them still feel really strongly about each other, but because it didn't end well, or end in a very satisfying way, there's a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of frayed nerves there.
I'm sorry, it's just satisfying.
The funnier way that I was playing with it in my head, because like I think I saw someone posited that like the way you read it is they have this energy of like, on the one hand it's like, I'm so used to being the smartest person in the room and you're the only person who has been able to combat me, and to lose you as that would be not worth the effort.
Would be devastating.
Yeah, but there is also the angle of like, man, everyone rags on B so fucking hard about being the smartest person in the room at any given point in time. Like that entire scene before the party where B is just resigning herself because everyone in that scene is basically being like, B, what the fuck? It's all done very poetically, and it's done sort of in the same way that, like, you know, Beatrice and Fleabag would be great drinking buddies.
That's a great analogy, yeah.
I think Leonardo and Fleabag's father make the same comment, which is, you're so done with all of this because you love so deeply, and you have so much love and so much hope that you can't help but be done with everything around you because you see it all as flawed. So there's that like sympathetic instinct, and you get the sense that Benedict actually values that to some extent. Yeah. And Benedict has sort of the same problem, though he's also just a bit of a cad and like a rake in the traditional sense, where he's just like kind of flittering around. He's never been given a good enough reason to stop moving and be like, maybe I should settle down. And the idea that somebody likes him for his personality
Why?
Benedict in this version is the physical embodiment of, you like me for my personality? I know, I was surprised too. Like, I saw one post that was like, they're both bi for bi, but Beatrice has only dated women and is so mad she's finally attracted to a man again. Meanwhile, Benedict has only really dated men and is just like so confused why he's attracted to a woman again.
I definitely get that read, and I will say that I said this in the chat while we were watching it together. This was definitely the one production where I absolutely bought, oh yeah, no, these two have always had feelings for each other, and part of that is just that David and Catherine, shock of all shocks, I mean,
they have such good chemistry.
Hot take, it's almost like they work well together.
And I love that they have the kind of chemistry where they can play anything together. Like, they can play best friends like they do in Doctor Who. They can play love interests like they do in this. They can play mortal enemies like they do in DuckTales.
I think that the thing is that between the two of them, they're really good at building an energy of really strong rapport. No matter what that rapport is, they are connected indelibly. So when the two of them are playing, they literally physically cannot stand you. It's a deep feeling. There's no mildness about it. Everyone else to B is just sort of a person, with the exception of Hero. She's the only person that B actually cares about, and that's because Hero is the only person who's nice to B, even though B is the smartest bitch in the room. And everyone knows it, and everyone else has a problem with it, and Hero finds it aspirational.
Endearing.
Yeah, and so those two are really, really tightly connected. And then other than that, the only person that B has a relationship with all play long is Benedict.
Actually, hang on, I've got more. Whoops, Beatrice and Benedict are actually just proto-Fleabag and the priest. Because the other thing you could say is B goes to turn to the camera, metaphorically speaking, even though Benedict's the one with all the asides, you could sense that if B were to turn to the camera, Benedict would go,
what was that? What? Where did you just go? What? You just went somewhere. There. Where'd you just go?
like he would catch her.
Yeah, I could see that.
Probably. I mean, I feel like they would catch each other. I feel like they both have those moments, and they would catch each other if they were in the same scene together.
They'd have like a moment of, hey, no, it's my turn to talk to the camera. Fuck you, it's my turn.
I'm pretty sure there's like a Lizzie Bennet Diaries-esque web series that does that at one point. I'm almost positive there is.
I would be shocked if there isn't.
I do want to say my familiarity with Catherine Tate is she had a sketch show in Britain. So like her foundation, her origin, as far as I was aware of her, maybe until after, she started appearing in Doctor Who and the like, is as a sketch comedian. And so I was very much impressed by her ability to like take the center of the stage and grab hold of the play at all times. And of all the actors on stage during this production, she was the one to whom my eyes always drifted because she was always doing something interesting. And the portrayal of Beatrice in this 2011 staging, it required quite a lot of physical and emotional heft. And I think that even if I wasn't aware, having seen her as Donna Noble in Doctor Who, even if I wasn't aware that she was perfectly comfortable and capable of doing comedy and tragedy and drama, usually all within the same 45-minute space, I just was absolutely floored by her performance in this. And I think that of everyone involved, like, she was just fantastic from start to finish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, they play off each other so well. Like, I would be hard pressed to find a better Benedict and Beatrice. Like, they understand that this play really only works if you do buy that there's something there. It doesn't even necessarily have to be, oh yeah, no, these two are totally in love. Even though, yes, that's definitely how they were playing it. I think we could all agree there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you compare it to the Brana Thompson version, like, they were married at the time, so there is that chemistry there. And yet I still come out of that one being like, nah, she should have gone with Don Pedro.
I mean,
and not just because Denzel was. Wow.
Yeah, it's like, damn, you really, really said no to Denzel Washington. I do not believe you.
In his prime.
I do not believe you. Emma Thompson, you are an amazing actress, but even I do not believe this. Anyway.
And also then Brana cheated on her with Helena Bonham Carter, so there's that too.
Choices have been made.
I have a question. Am I remembering correctly that there was a sketch with Catherine Tate and David Tennant doing a Shakespeare classroom English class?
Yeah. And she spent the whole time bugging him about if he
Catherine
was the
Tate.
doctor or not.
Wasn't it done for
Look at upon my face. Doth it seem bothered? Yes.
Catherine Tate had a recurring character, like the school student who would, am I bothered, was basically her catchphrase. That's how everybody remembered her for many years,
Looketh upon my face. Doth it seem bothered?
Art thou calling my mother a pox-ridden wench? Art thou calling my father a goodly rotten apple?
Of course you have that memorized, Sam.
Yes, okay, I'm glad I didn't make that up. That was in my head, and I'm like, I swear to God, this is real.
I rewatch that very frequently because it's yet another instance of Tate and Tennant playing off each other so well. Did you guys know they also recorded a song for this production?
Shammy did mention that, yes.
They recorded We Go Together together.
Here we go!
Don't make me do this.
Oh, you're gonna love it. We're like a branch in its vine.
Like a drunk and his wine.
Like the leaves and the breeze.
Fatty food and disease.
And like a sheep and a lamb.
Like a pig and a ham.
We go together.
Right, can I go now? Can I just
like Shakespeare in verse.
Like a corpse and a hearse.
Like a song and a dance.
Like the English and France.
Like a Persian and rugs.
Like a headache and drugs.
We go together, you and I.
Delightful.
And it's so funny because I'm imagining it at the end of the play. They're both drunk / fighting off the beginnings of a hangover, and they're kind of doing this lounge singing thing like, oh, God damn it, I am in love with you, so I now have to deal with it.
It's the absolutely, like, about to pass out on the ground, like, checking to make sure your feet still work before sitting up and grabbing last night's beer that has a silly straw in it and just...
Who was that kid?
I don't know, but that kid was like...
That kid understood That kid understood all of the assignments.
Every Shakespeare play now needs a snarky little kid exactly like that.
Just like, book?
With no lines.
Book?
With no lines.
Yeah.
Just
chasing him around.
And
So
it
good.
is like I think he was just there to be a messenger, pretty much.
No, he
And
did
since
have
didn't
lines.
He was just kind of there
He did
because
have
it was
lines.
funny. And a
He
lot
had-
of the
He
okay,
had
fair
like
enough.
a handful of lines that were
also-
like when I think Benedict sent him to get the book and was like, boy, and then he shows up,
That's true.
appears, and then it's like, get me a
Book?
book. And the kid is like, why?
I mean, there's a character,
love how
there's
Scottish.
a character like that in most Shakespeare, so it does make sense.
But what's even funnier is when the kid does come back with the
And
book.
chases
That's
him
delightful.
around. Yeah.
where he's trying to so the kid is trying to give him the book so he can go fuck off and do something else. But Benedict is trying not to be spotted, and so the other three are trying to like protect there isn't this kid chasing David Tennant around.
Tag yourself. Are you Benedict trying to cover himself in white paint, or Beatrice hiding under tarps?
That
The
is
setup-
some of the
the
best.
setup-
Or
That's
are
the
you
line.
Beatrice hanging from?
Flying around like it's a goddamn Peter Pan production.
the,
I have all the
God,
respect in the world to everybody who did not crack up.
No, as a first introduction, this was delightful. Did I understand everything? No, not even close.
Well, that's what you have us for.
The line read of the play is very early on. It's when Pedro and Claudio are taking the piss out of Benedict after he's given his, well, I see a bachelor's life post 30 or whatever. And they really put the emphasis on dick. And Tennant just sort of looks at them and says, mock not. But the way he stresses that word, those words, it's very clearly a fuck you. And it's incredible. 12 out of 10. And also using the golf
Yes,
cart like a jungle
that was-
gym.
Excellent prop choice.
Big mood. The backing up beep beep. Beep, beep, beep.
Because you can tell, Benedict is just like, okay, I wanted to get out of this in a more dramatic and cool sense.
And another thing.
I said good day, sir.
I will have the last word.
You were talking about staging, Addie, and how much this play depends on movement. I think the smartest thing this production did is the fucking turntable.
Yes!
The turntable, yes! Oh my
how-
god, such a great... First of all, I love turntables in shows.
All theater needs turntables now.
There's a TikTok video series where this person does musicals that didn't have turntables if they had turntables, and they've done like Newsies and Heathers and
Yeah, turntables are great.
It's such a great way to provide an additional source of movement, because the way that they did both of the scenes that mirror each other, where you have one person listening in on a conversation that is meant to be overheard, and then you can actually turn the stage so that the audience is looking at the person who's listening, and then the actors are moving around this thing so that you get this feeling of it's just so much more dynamic and it's fun to watch, and especially with actors who are as energetic as the entire cast, but Tennant and Tate are particularly, they don't stop moving even when they're holding still. And so like giving them that extra, like it's just double the play space. It's just double the room that they can play around in and the audience can still see them. And it's so good. It's just such clever usage of the space. I love turntables so much.
Yeah, that's how it came in.
didn't the golf cart go da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da when it came in?
And it was off key.
Yep.
Just like me.
Like all good golf cart horns should be. I will say the other best gag, and like the moment I was like, oh, I am so proud of none of you for cracking, is when they finally do the reveal that like, oh yeah, Beatrice is in love with Benedict, and it's the beer spit into people's faces, and they all just sort of hold out their hands like it's raining. And I'm like, how did none of you break? How did none of you break? I swear they did a day where it was just that bit to make sure nobody cracked.
Or it's an improv like Saturday Night Live when Keenan flipped the plate at the soul food bit, and you're just trying like so hard not to crack.
If it was an improv, then yeah, no, there's no way that was an improv. They would have definitely broken. I don't care how good these actors are.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there are certain reactions that even the best trained actor is not going to expect if it was improvised. I fully suspect that there were days where they did
Nothing but.
just those two forced overhearing conversations just to make sure nobody cracked.
That would
Which
make
one?
sense.
There was a lot going on there, and I do actually kind of want to rewind back to the party real quick.
Well, about the part, was anybody else a little weirded by the whole Princess Di angle they kept pushing for Hero?
That was odd.
They
Oh, is that why the dress looked
That's
like
why
that?
the dress looked like that, and they gave her a mask at the party of
I
Princess Diana. I'm like,
completely didn't get that.
We saw the mask.
I thought.
Oh my god, I completely missed it.
But yeah, no, it is totally a Princess Di dress. Oh my god.
Oh my god, River, we called Princess Diana's dress ugly.
I mean, it is.
it's a very 80s dress, and the 80s were ugly. I'm sorry, the 80s were fucking ugly.
But pop culture will never forgive us for insulting Princess Diana.
I don't think she got to pick that dress.
I just assumed it was like the only dress they had in the costume closet, and they didn't have, like, they were just thin enough on the budget that they couldn't go out and buy a whole new one or make a whole new one.
It was fucking funny when Beatrice kept blowing her nose on the train.
1000%.
though, or sneezing it every time they heard Benedictus.
But oh my god, yeah, that is a choice then. I don't know how to feel about that. I think it's just gonna make me sad to think too hard about it.
Maybe it's like a meta commentary that Diana's life was also ruined by unfounded
Well, yeah,
whispers
no,
or
I
something.
agree that I can see why they did it. I'm just not sure how I feel about the fact that they did.
I don't think they leaned into it hard enough to fully make it worth the questions it brought up.
I completely missed that part, to be honest. It went entirely over my head.
And now I'm sad. I need cheering up. Let's move on to the rest of the party because that shit was hilarious.
I need to steal the gender of both Catherine Tate and David Tennant during the party scene. Hand over your genders, good sirs.
Okay, question. Was David Tennant originally, like, doing the Miss Piggy thing? Because also, how have we never had David Tennant in the Muppets?
You know, he basically is a Muppet.
David Tennant is Muppets. I need this in my life.
Bob Iger, you owe us. Make it
Because
happen.
the Muppets moved stateside. That is why you've never had David Tennant in the Muppets, is because the Muppets moved stateside.
I also want to hear him just say Muppet with that beautiful Scottish accent. He's so Scottish in so much of this, and I love it. I love that bro.
Yeah, so few things
Let
be
you
Scottish.
fucking Muppet.
Let him be Scottish. We love it.
But yeah, and what I especially loved in the interaction with him and Beatrice, because again, this was definitely a case where I absolutely buy that he has feelings for her, because he's just so offended, because it's like, they've been trading barbs this whole time, but clearly the party was where B goes too far, and he's just like, okay, fuck you then. As much of a fuckboy as Benedict is, you never get the sense that he's mean about it.
Oh, so she doesn't actually like me. Well, then I don't like her anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't care.
I hope you didn't think I cared, because I don't.
But I could if I wanted to.
Yeah, I could if I wanted to. Who cares?
Santino Fontana would also make a great Benedict, actually. I think I could see it. I mean, I know he's more Claudio coded, but I think he could do it.
I love the knockoff holding out for a hero.
Yeah.
Like the musical motif they decided to go for the party. That was the best game, was to try and figure out what the orchestra was trying to
It was fantastic. I was actually sitting there going, like, every time the music played up, I had a hard time trying to go, like, what are the lyrics here? But like, I knew that it was actually Shakespeare lyrics, and so I could not actually like process what the actual words were, but it was very, very cool to hear like them doing incredibly 80s music.
Just blatantly meant to be stand-ins for particular songs, and I love every single one of them, because I am a sucker for when they figure out a way to put like Shakespeare sonnets or lyrics that are actually in the show and set it to the music of whatever period you're setting this play in.
One of the things that kind of gets me a little bit is that when you have a lot of Shakespeare plays have embedded bits of music, and boring music to set those lyrics to can often make those scenes drag. And none of these did. I have rarely seen a version of a play that didn't omit the songs entirely that actually, when I was like, oh, this is good. I'm enjoying this still. Like...
I don't know what Claudio was supposed to be dressed as, but the vampire shirt, tight-ass jeans, and single dangly silver earring
made my heart sweat.
Was an absolute fucking choice.
And I lived for it.
That was also very gender.
Also, shout out to that actor's ass and every single costumer that decided we're gonna put that man in the tightest fucking pants imaginable. It was the right choice.
Yes, Callie has a particular affection for that actor because of the Kenneth Branagh Poirot movies.
A sentence that is hell.
And he cute, and we love those movies. But anyway, no, he looks like a CW actor. And that's as far as that's gonna go.
We enjoy those movies, sir.
When Callie said, "We love those movies," River made the greatest face. And I just want to pause on that for a moment.
I can't tell if that... No, coming from you, that's a compliment. Coming from anyone else in this room, that is a scathing insult.
It was very much a, "Do we though? Are you fucking sure?" Fair.
Branagh gets to adapt as many Poirot movies as he likes because he made Belfast, so let him make his movies.
You know, this was technically a crossover with 6 Degrees of Star Wars because of David Tennant, but I also feel obligated to mention that Tom Bateman is Daisy Ridley's husband, so...
Listen, Callie Castle can trademark a brand, and it's called Sad Broken White Boy.
Like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah, but I take it. No, I do it differently. I do it differently. I do not excuse their actions.
My fuckboys
Daz
are
will tell me
different.
Daz will tell you that I
Callie
never
has a
defend their
Callie
bullshit.
has a brand.
I hate to break this to you.
Yes.
My maniacs are special, and I pulled them out of the dumpster and they're mine, fair and square.
So, tons and tons of people have a problem with Claudio. Biggest problem with a person in this play is Hero's father.
Yeah.
He's so bad. Just somebody comes in and accuses your kid, who you are proud of and love and have known for their literally entire life, of doing something that doesn't seem characteristic of them and whatever. And your first move is...
Take not away thy heavy hand. Death is the fairest cover for her shame that may be wished for. Have comfort, lady. Dost thou look up? Yea, wherefore should she not? Wherefore? Why doth not every earthly thing cry shame upon her? Could she here deny the story that is printed in her blood? Do not live, hero. Do not ope thine eyes. For did I think thou wouldst not quickly die?
Like, what the fuck, man?
Fuck
Yeah,
Leonardo!
I forgot how
Fuck
terrible
him.
he is.
I do appreciate Benedict absolutely about ready to throw hands with Leonardo.
Yeah, that's true.
He's like holding him back for the sake of propriety, but you get the general sense from David Tennant's facial expression where he's just like, were it not for the laws of this land, you would not currently be standing.
What the fuck, dude?
It's a real family of blood moment.
It's like he immediately got sober. Like, he spent the whole play drunk and suddenly it's like,
Yeah, basically.
oh shit's getting real. All the alcohol leave my body right the fuck now.
It's one of those moments in the play where Shakespeare makes a pointed comment about how social propriety takes priority over personal connection. This prince and his companion, this prince who is my social superior, has made this accusation towards my daughter. Today, I think we would all hope, at least, that if that were to happen, a father would defend the daughter he has known her entire life. 50-50.
Yeah.
A good father would defend his daughter. Shakespeare's making a point here, right? And it's a point that I think his entire audience was gonna understand. That I don't think Shakespeare approves of it. I think the one thing I remember out of this play, out of this staging, that I don't remember out of like Branagh's adaptation, and I certainly don't remember out of Whedon's adaptation, that I barely remember anyway. Like when Hero defends herself in this staging, like this is the strongest I've ever seen like Hero portrayed in my limited experience of seeing the play. Like when she is given the opportunity to stand up for herself, like at least here she is very strident and very strong. And I think there is a commentary being made there, whether it was intentional or unintentional, about how we can understand this. Men in power get believed a lot more and a lot faster than women without power.
You know you're in a Shakespeare comedy when the women are listened to at all. You know you're in a tragedy when the women are never listened.
I think I disagree, and I would have to look to see if I could find an example. And the reason why I disagree is because if the point he's trying to make is about power trumping person's personal knowledge of a person, I don't understand why this is the play to put that in. Because the play is about, you've got the two mains. They know each other. They know each other really, really well. So much so that when when B goes a step too far, Benedict is actually hurt because they've been doing this. They've been sparring for their entire lives. It's known at the beginning of the play that they've known each other for a long time, and they have had this kind of rivalry. So they know each other. And then you have all of these other relationships that are established at the start of the thing. And we start with a father who is proud of his daughter. And I guess if you wanted to say that it's really just that people's perceptions of a person can be completely changed based on what somebody else says, then that makes sense to be in this play, and that's the way that I read it. But that is not having to do very much with power, because the other two instances of it don't have anything to do with power. But the other thing, though, is that I think that there are other examples of fathers in Shakespeare who go to bat for their kids and lose for it. I don't think that that would be an unfair expectation even of the time period, where a family would either win together or lose together. And if somebody who is more powerful than them accuses somebody with little power in the family, you should be able to expect your parents to say, come back with a fucking warrant.
As a person who grew up in the Southern Baptist religion, I can assure you that if this happened even today at a modern Southern Baptist wedding, they're not going to be like, come back with a warrant. It's going to be a whole showdown. It's going to be a whole thing. I was 13 and did a purity ceremony with my dad, dressed in all white, promised to be pure till marriage. He slipped a ring on my finger. It was very weird. No, that is a thing that did not faze me. I was like, yeah, no, that is exactly how a religious family, even in 2023, would behave. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen the slut shaming in the church.
So the question is not the expectation. The question that I have is not the expectation, because while the expectation is fucked, that is not really what I'm getting at here. What I'm getting at is if you then, after that really, really weird, and I know like normal to a couple of strange culty parts of America, but if after that somebody from your school or something had accused you of being promiscuous, would your parents have gone, oh, cool, all right, we're going to kick her out of the house? Or would they have gone immediately without even going to you and saying, is this true?
Yes. Wow. Yes. For me, the whole thing felt very true to life. Things that I have seen, witnessed in some various form, and it's rough on the girls, because like when I was in church, when I was doing my getting ready for the purity ceremony, they did that whole thing where they ripped up your heart in little like they took a piece of a paper heart and they ripped it up into little shreds, and they're like, you're giving parts of yourself to somebody else and there will be nothing left for your husband. And that is very much still a thing that happens. That is very much going to be a thing that happens for a very long time, until there is some leadership changes within these religious organizations. You're there's better.
I don't want to plow the furrow too deep here, because I don't want to turn up anything that, don't want to turn up. But it is notable that it isn't until like the friar comes to Hero's defense. And the friar barely knows Hero, compared to someone like Beatrice, who has been her committed companion for all these times. She says they've been bedfellows. They've literally shared a bed for a year up until this point. Her defense of Hero is not enough. But then someone in a position of power equivalent to that of the prince, that is a representative of God, says, no, hold on a second. I can tell that this girl is telling the truth.
Yeah, without that context, that's incredible. You're right. Also, just 2 plays with a friar who encourages our main characters to go ahead and lie, for God.
It's almost like Shakespeare just had a whole book of tropes he was drawing on.
They want you to play dead. Play dead and lie.
I'm gonna borrow a joke from my internet boss. Are Shakespeare friars just possums?
Well, it worked for Jesus.
If I may, in one of the many Shakespeare classes I have taken, one of the reads of that is just that, keep in mind, by the time Shakespeare had been writing this, England was largely no longer Catholic. And it was just probably some kind of commentary on, aren't these Catholics crazy? Aren't you glad we're in the Church of England now?
The Church of England is just Catholicism without the Pope.
Even without I also wanted to say, in terms why this scene is here, TM, it's an absolute fucking tonal crater for the show. Depending on your production, the tonal crater does not always get dragged out. This production actually manages to dig itself out of its crater pretty quickly, actually. And we'll get into why that works in a minute. But there are some productions that I don't think survive the tonal crater that is this scene. Because again, like we've said, this production, especially subtitle, has been horny, plastered, and absolutely fucking sloshed. And plastered and sloshed in this occasion are two different forms of being drunk off your ass. One of them can make coherent choices sometimes with a little bit of confidence. One of them is your mama's so fat jokes. Pick your character on which one's which. The point is, this scene, like, it's a set up in a play sense. Like, yes, you know the inciting instance, you know how we got from A to B. Tonally, this scene comes out of fucking no. The vitriol and the anger, and this is out of character for everyone in this scene prior to this moment. It craters the tone of the show, and there are some productions that cannot crawl out of that tonal crater because you can't go back to light fluff after watching the vitriol. And I was rewatching Kyle's video about Wobbin's Much Ado. Yeah. What Wobbin decides to do is play it that Claudio has always been a dick, and this has just been a showing of true colors. And that is a way to play it so that you don't tonally, crash the show so completely that it's not worth trying to save anymore. And I think this show saves it by letting Tennant get not Time Lord victorious, because he's not Time Lord victorious. No, he's the drowning of the Rachnos. He is, I have lost everything that is valuable to me, and someone I love has been deeply wounded, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. This is my rage. This is my fire. This is the only way I know how to process that grief without affecting those immediately around me. And he doesn't have someone, because the only person who would pull him back from this is the person who pushed the button. And I think that is how this play is saved from that tonal crater.
I mean, that's just another reason why I really hate the ending that Hero gets for this play. Like, because Claudio's quote-unquote atonement is the most performative bullshit. Like, oh, I have to stand up and say a speech at your funeral and then sing outside your wall. The only thing I liked about it was they did that Ghost of Hero moment to scare the shit out of him. But even then, if I were Hero, I'd be running off with, what's her name? Ursula or something, and just going on a road trip or something.
You're gonna love Sigh No More. I agree. Now. I've officially decided that from that comment.
I did appreciate in this staging, at least, like, they take a short moment of time to note Claudio's deep regret and pain to the point to the point of
the cheapest liquor one could find.
And only being stopped at the very last moment.
Hang on, I got thoughts about the Dark Knights of Souls scene, because it's unique to this production. That's even playing into his state of mind. First of all, love that because of the way that this music in this production has been diegetified is by the little boombox they carry everywhere, the cassette tapes. And
you got some 2000s emo music playing. It's great.
And the lighting, first off, is spectacular. Love the fucking lighting in the Dark Knight of Souls moment. But it continues the movement that the rest of the play has. Everyone is, moving. We were making jokes that David Tennant is just an escaped cartoon character, or doing his best, Tube Man impression. The invoking of the Dark Knight of Souls moment, you're like, oh god, they're going there. Like, the minute the pistol came out, again, I don't know if it's the traumatized American in me, or the I survived the suicide scare of 2010 in me, or the, I hate calling it that, but that's the only thing I could think to call it, or the I was a survivor of the emo is automatically suicidal movement. The minute the pistol came out, I went, hang on a minute, that's the wrong play! But I would love to actually see that production. I'm gonna script Dr. Shakespeare, welcome to
I don't think I need that.
I don't think I need it either, but I think it'd be interesting.
My reaction to this scene was, I don't think I need this. I am very much opposed to the narrative of people obtaining redemption through death. I want to bring in another thing. This is media that I absolutely freaking love. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Yeah. Queen shit.
Shadow Weaver.
Oh, that fucking plotline.
Says, I'm proud of you, and then dies. And
what the fuck?
My reaction was,
Shadow Weaver.
You don't get to be proud of anyone. They're alive and they are who they are in spite of you.
Not because of you.
You're not redeemed by dying.
No.
You would be redeemed by living the rest of your miserable existence trying to atone for what you did and knowing that forgiveness might never come.
Nope.
That's the importance of redemption. And if I don't feel that weight from a thing, a person saying, I feel regret and now I'm going to kill myself, that doesn't redeem them. It makes them pitiful, but it doesn't redeem them. It doesn't make...
I don't necessarily, you'd think you'd have to go for redemption in that version of events.
No, and I don't think so either. And I'm not trying to say that that's what you're saying, but I can't get behind the character.
I like to imagine that what it actually is the way it is stated. He starts at center, he moves left to center, left again, back to center, slightly to the right, and that's when Don Pedro comes in. Each movement is a passage of time. The movement right is minutes before the events happen because it all cuts off super suddenly the minute Pedro enters. I like to think he's been drinking himself into a stupor for at least a couple of days, if not a week or two. Because I don't know if they specify how long it goes between like the announcement of the funeral and the... So you could fully play with the idea, like if you wanted to run with this interpretation, he's been drinking himself into a stupor for the past, let's say generously, a week.
Really spending time wrestling with it.
And fully was like, this is the only way I get to see her again. Because again, they do the haunting of Hero. If he fully believes that she is dead and gone and is fully regretful of that idea, he's like, that's the only way I see her again.
So to me, what it feels like is it's a way to get the audience on side with this character who, in my opinion, is irredeemable. And to me, if the camera doesn't know that the character is irredeemable, if the camera is trying to show us that they feel remorseful, so maybe you should feel bad for them, then that's kind of bad on the camera. To me, that's how I read it. I always kind of feel like you should let your villains be villainous. And if your villains are doing bad things, the camera should know it. And the camera shouldn't try and tell the audience to like this person.
I don't think this camera wants Claudio to be the villain because there's already...
No, it does not. That's where my argument lies.
We're dealing with tropes of Shakespearean comedy, and the reasons that Shakespearean comedies always end with a wedding is because that's the restoration of order. And so that conformist heteronormative thing, because even if we are making fun of the Catholic Church with how the friars all play possum, we are still in a very Christianized, heteronormative, monogamous oriented worldview. So I think that what Josie Rourke was trying to do was trying to give Hero some justification, which I don't think it worked. And honestly, I hate that more because it makes Claudio into a project for Hero to fix.
I think Claudio was a character that, in any staging or adaptation of Much Ado About Nothing, like of all the characters, Claudio is sometimes the most difficult to get a handle on because there's a very clear villain of the piece, which is Don John. And then you have Claudio, who is not like...
He's a patsy.
Yeah, he's a patsy. Shakespeare did not write him to be a villain. And so he's not technically supposed to be a villain, but his crimes are that he's
young, dumb, and gullible.
He's dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's stupid, he's gullible. You could say he's vain. His crime, he is not, I hate to say likable, because a character should not have to be likable for you to like them as a character. But I think if we have any positive opinion about Claudio, at least in the first couple of acts of the play, it's because Benedict really likes him, and the prince really likes him. And we really like Benedict, and we like the prince. He's drunk and he's dealing with the trauma of having to reconcile with his brother, he may or may not have just fought a war with, or again, he's dealing with a lot of crap. So it's no wonder that he's permanently drunk and coming up with the most ridiculous plans to help his friends out.
I sort of feel like he's a stuffed shirt with a title, but I see where you're coming from, that once you have the context, you can read in a lot of complexity there.
Yeah, I'm getting a read off that really out of the final scene of the play.
I have thoughts about that.
Everyone is dancing, everyone's having a really good time, and then there's the
he's
prince
having a cig in the corner.
He is standing off to one side and he is smiling, but he is a million miles away. Everyone got a happy ending except for him, because he has to go now and maybe hang his brother, maybe. So his brother, who he has just reconciled with, he is trying really incredibly hard. But the prince also has to reconcile with the fact that like he brought John here, and I think it was a very purposeful decision to make sure that we saw the prince at the end of this play trying to smile and trying to look happy, but absolutely riddled with the understanding of what he has done and what he will have to do. Everyone gets a happy ending except for him.
I want to point out too, like, this may just be because I'm coming from a CW base of fandom here. Listen, no, I'm not justifying anybody. What he did was wrong. Period. Point.
Go ahead.
Period. Point blank. End of discussion.
Yeah,
Slut shaming and all that. It's all wrong. But I have seen, like, the camera can say, "Hey, this is bad." Like, you can have all of your writing and your camera work say, "This is bad," but everybody still defends Klaus Michelson as sucks his dick.
So I wanna challenge you though, because here's the thing. This is a proto-Othello story. But the camera knows that Othello has done wrong, and everything that happens to him after that fact is on him. He has to suffer the consequences. And that's the way I feel about it, is that like Othello is a tighter written story of, you listened to the wrong people. You failed to trust the one person that you should have heard first. And because of that, it's all on you, baby. You're done. The tragedy of Othello is the tragedy of him not listening to his wife. And this is a case where
the tighter story is one that Shakespeare was plagiarizing from somebody else.
But
I understood.
But we are not in a tragedy.
Yeah.
We are in
no,
a
we're
comedy.
not. Right. We are in a comedy. And I'm that's fair. You're right. That's a point well taken.
Which is why, again, I say that scene is such a tonal crater that if you don't crawl out of it properly, even again, Claudio, dependent on the actor. If you don't like Claudio's actor, you don't like Claudio, period, end of sentence. There are some interpretations where you can get away with, like, all right, he's a dick, but he has potential to grow. Like, Branagh's version, like, Robert Sean Leonard is clearly, like, a decade younger than everybody else in the cast. So you buy the idea that he's young, dumb, and naive, and he still has room to grow. There's a reason that we keep pitching the high school version, because the high school version would give the Claudio analog room to grow. In this version, he's still a little bit young. Like, I don't know how old the actor is, but if he's married to Daisy Ridley, he's no older than 30. Because I think she's like mid-30s ish. Or he's no older than 40. Because she's like 35, 30-ish. I don't know actors' ages anymore. I gave up. The only one I know off the top of my head is Aaron Taylor Johnson is 10 years older than me, so he's 33. But Claudio is not as perceptively younger than the rest of this cast, because everyone in this cast looks fucking great. I don't know what it is. But he's still, like, demonstratively younger enough that you could buy this as youth naivete and rushing headlong into things you don't know how to run headlong into things. And also, again, the power of the prince. If fucking Pedro believes it, what chance does Claudio stand? And I think that in this production specifically, he's 34. So in this was 10 years ago ish, give or take, a little bit over 10 years. That would put him in his mid 20s.
Early 20s.
Yeah. So he is very clearly younger than the rest of the cast. And so you can play up the idea of youth naivete. And I think that's the thing so he still has the room to grow. And this is his first sort of major life fuck up. And if this is the biggest thing he ever does, then he will be fine for, like, you get the general sense that he could be okay going forward.
And that was kind of where I got that vibe from. Like, I was like, okay, he clearly is remorseful. He's clearly actually just hurt and upset. And like, while everything that he is doing in a reaction to this is wrong, and he should have sat and thought about it and used his words like an adult.
He's not an adult.
He's not an
adult.
So
that
is fair. That kind of changes my mind on things a little bit.
Like,
I also
obviously what he did was wrong.
I also want to going way back to what we were talking about earlier. Connor was saying power and parents. I'm wrong. I went and poked around. All of Shakespeare's dads are just bad news, just terrible news.
If a dad shows up in Shakespeare, if he isn't dead, he's just bad.
He's just bad.
Even if he is dead, he's bad. Hamlet's dad is responsible for so much.
There's one dad in Shakespeare that might have been good, and that was Hal. And Prince Hal dies when his child is 6 months old. So, yeah.
This is slander against Duke Sr. from As You Like It, against Rosalind's dad.
I suppose you could
He's a good dad.
theoretically say, and you can decide one way or another if I'm right here. You could say that Prospero starts as a bad dad, but at the end he's kind of like, maybe I need to be a better dad. So he's got growth. Of course, Shakespeare then died, so that was the best dad that we got. But
well, Shakespeare was a bad dad, so there is that. Like, Shakespeare does not have great experience being a good dad.
On it actually makes so much sense that the one dad.
maybe I should have spent more time in Stratford instead of
That's
coming
what-
here
that's
every
what I'm
summer.
trying to say. He's reaching the end of his life, and at least one dad trying to do better.
All right, so you were just saying Duke Senior was that Duke Senior was a good dad, and he's banished at the very beginning of the story. He's not present in it.
But yeah, most of the
He is present in it. Jaques is in his court. Without Duke Senior, we don't have the All World's a Stage monologue, and he's at the end of the play, and he agrees to give away
Fair.
Rosalind even though Rosalind
that's
isn't
true.
there. He's a good dad.
On the Prospero to Lear scale, how bad of a dad is
pretty
Leonardo?
close to Lear, I think.
Oh, pretty close to Lear.
Definitely.
I think he's the middle of, like, whatever the middle point on that scale is, and Lear. He's, like, dead smack in the middle of, like, that end of the scale. I would also put both Capulet and Montague dads on this side of the scale as well.
Yeah.
But on the other side of Leonardo, closer to Lear.
Over on the Lear side, yeah.
I think Hamlet Sr. is the dead center of that. Dead but bad. He is Schrodinger's bad dad.
I do want to circle back to the Don Pedro part, because that is actually set up in the one scene he has with Beatrice, because this is the first time I remember seeing Don Pedro actually being kind of torn up about Beatrice's rejection. And this was also the one time where Beatrice's rejection was a whole ass mood, because I, once again, as I have said, I have this tendency to assume that no one could possibly ever like me. So there was this one time when someone asked me if I was single, I thought he was joking. And that ended up being really awkward. So I was just like, B, no, oh. And especially since Don Pedro was really torn up about it. So I was like, I do wonder if that kind of fuels his bullshit to a certain degree.
So, you know how I keep mentioning that tone crater? You want to know what most Much Ado managed to not pull out of the tone crater? Bad dogberry scenes. Fortunately for us, the dogberry scenes in this are a lot of fun. So we get some free giggles to try and crawl out of our total abyss.
I picture shit. Yeah.
I'm working on the theory. I think Don John and Dogberry might have been played by the same actor originally, like in the Shakespearean times.
I picture Shakespeare sitting in his room, like, writing out, like, Much Ado About Nothing, and thinking to himself, shit, that was a downer. Oh. Verily, that was a downer. Better have Beatrice and Benedict profess love for each other, and then go to Dogberry.
And then this here cop gonna, like, say some stuff that...
And also I'm going to have a scene where I say ass like 20 times. Also, A-Cap still includes Dogberry, because I'm pretty sure he was doing police violence.
I am so obsessed with the stick
Honestly.
on the massive post. Because, like, my mom uses those for, like, work meetings, or used to when she was still going to the office for work meetings. So just these massive stick drawings trying to poorly explain what the watch is supposed to do before the wedding, and trying to hide the dirty one as part of the last. And, like, this Dogberry, again, can keep up the pace and keeps up the frenetic movement that we're, running around with. And
though he doesn't keep up the pace long enough to actually tell people that
that's
Hero
the point.
is being slandered.
Yeah. I will say that, like, the 4 different versions of this show that I have now seen, this was probably the most entertaining Dogberry that in my opinion. And, like, all of those scenes, they've always felt to me tedious. Instead, because of how much he says without saying anything, and he's not like I adore Polonius, but I adore Polonius because Hamlet is there to just keep walking circles around him and going, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot, you're an idiot.
Did I mention you're an idiot?
That's what makes it funny. Yeah. So
you needed a straight man for Dogberry,
yeah,
basically.
and it just,
That's
there
fair.
isn't one, and so those tend to drag.
Don Pedro needing his whole count of what's going on.
Yeah.
And just take it, like, just matching that energy immediately, but with the deadpan expression of, what the fuck are you talking about? Get to the fucking point.
That's why this is like one of the funniest ones that I've ever seen, that I was just like, yes, I'm on board with this. This is great.
Really quickly, I want to go back to the in between the wedding and the funeral.
Dark Night of the Soul, yes.
Yeah, that part.
Are we going to justify ourselves now, Callie?
No, we have a theory here. With the idea that River presented about it being like a week-long drinking binge, I like the idea that it started with the high-end tequila, and then we ran out, so now we're down to the $15 bottle of Jose Cuervo. Like, we're just drinking whatever's left at this point because we can't be sober.
Especially since, like, if the idea is, like, we've been drinking throughout the entire play, and this house's liquor stash is just gone. Again, the other funny drinking gag that is in this show that I haven't mentioned is Hero in full wedding gown, holding the champagne flute with the bendy straw. It is drinking champagne like it is a juice box.
I just like the idea that we started with our high quality tequilas, your Don Julio's. I work in liquor, so I could go on about this for a little bit. We work our way.
Please don't.
I won't, I promise. But like we work our way down from like the Don Julio, Reposado, Anejo, all the way down to our Jose Cuervo 50. Yeah, we're just getting sadder and sadder, and the quality matters less and less and less. We just want to be not sad.
We have not spoken nearly enough about the Benedict and Beatrice confession scene, because I mean, I feel like that is always a high point for me in most Much Ado.
Betty,
because
buddy, learn better timing.
Things get so serious that David Tennant turns English.
Yeah, no, it's just, I love how it goes from like the absolute goofiest shit to her being I would be disheartened in the marketplace, which again, quality line. I have felt that. I think pretty much everyone in this call has felt that. And then him suddenly getting the most serious we've seen his Benedict. It's just like, oh no, suddenly you are super, super hot again. Because there's just some
reminder, David Tennant.
Yes. Yes, David Tennant's always attractive.
Because he's been a cartoon character up until this point. And I say that with love and affection because he is an absolute bendy straw of a
He's
man.
the delight. But then he
fucking
then he gets all serious
noodle man.
and kisses her hand.
And then he goes full Darcy.
And it's just like, oh.
And it's about the hands, the devotion, and the David Tennant of it all. Yeah. What is hotter than a man giving you a solemn act of devotion to murder a man in your name? Nothing! Connor, get on it!
Hey.
I know it's not a confession scene, but at the end of the wedding when they both have the notes and they read them and they're like,
they're
oh
just
my
like,
god,
"Ooh,
this is so embarrassing. I
They're
wish one of them had stuffed them in their mouth.
Oh my god. You know what? With the energy they had been bringing this whole time, it would have made sense.
I was expecting it.
The prop usage was great in this as well.
Yeah, the props work was
I actually
so great.
really liked the handing off of the resignation letter.
Yeah.
Just not necessary to have a prop in that thing, but it really helps. It really
hammers
does. Yeah. Like,
and can I just,
it's like, I am so not fucking around, I wrote it out.
and I will also say, I mean, I've always known Benedict was a fuckboy, but really felt emphasized here. But just because he's a fuckboy doesn't mean he's a bad guy, that sort of thing. And also, this is the first time I realized that one of his lines is essentially, listen.
I think he graduated to fuck father.
Boo! Boo! But no, because this was one of the first times it really hit me. It's like, oh my god, one of his lines in the beginning is like, listen, I'm not sexist, I love my mom.
Oh god.
It is basically that. Am I wrong, Sam? Addie?
You're not wrong.
When I said I would die unmarried, I didn't think I was
That
going
was
to.
amazing.
Yeah,
What a
that
line.
is the biggest move of the entire fucking play. It's like, oh god, I made it to 30. What do I do?
Shall I never see a Bachelor of Tree score again? And the answer is no, and that includes you, mate.
You must actually, but but it'll be Don Pedro. Unless, of course, you're reading Melina Tobb's Still Star-Crossed. He's married to the sister of Prince Aeschylus.
You want to talk prop usage. Not only is everyone drunk as a skunk in this fucking play, they all smell like it too because of the fucking cigs, which 9 times out of 10 are just like nervous quirks that every character has, because the people who use it the most are Pedro and B. And it's very clearly there, I need to do something with my hands, because otherwise it is like I need to focus on something other than my brain, because if I focus on my brain, I'm gonna say something I shouldn't. And I think that like when B's not holding a cig, she's holding something else. The most neurotic of the characters, and I put neurotic in like pseudo air quotes, has to be holding on to something or has to be messing with something, because if they don't do that, they're gonna say something they shouldn't.
Or being chased by a small child.
I do actually enjoy that in this particular staging. So a lot of the time, vices like cigarettes, especially cigarettes, are shorthand for this is the bad guy, and it's not in this.
John's the only one who doesn't smoke.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a weird message.
Or no, he does. He hands the cigarette to the kid.
But yeah, no, he does. So we're good. We're good. Because yeah, that would be weird.
I don't think he smokes on stage. I think he just has the pack on. Because I think he gives it to the other fucker. He gives it to the kid, and he gives it to the actual guy who gets arrested.
Yeah, I like the portrayal of Don John in the staging of it. It ups the sort of like weediness, the sort of like this low cunning that he possesses. He's not a very smart
This
man.
is easily the wormiest Don John I've ever seen.
He's very wormy. It's not even his idea. Like, it's not even his plan. It's one of his underlings who comes up with the plan, and he just pays him a lot of money to do it. And I think the actor that they got play Don John, and the performance that was brought out of that, like, perfectly encapsulates that kind of, like, just slimy, like mean-spirited, not very smart individual who, you know, you can't be very smart if your brother has brought you back into his arms after whatever misfortune you brought him, and your first immediate reaction is, fuck all of these people. I'm just gonna, so I will say, like, the fantastic portrayal of Don John.
Yeah, Don John's the lesser Edmund, basically.
This is not this portrayal. And it's not, like, a real, like, nitpick that I have, but I think it's funny that the first time that, when you have that scene and they're going, like, I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna be bad. And then the other person turns around and goes, and I'll pay you 1,000 lira for it. And it's like, we didn't negotiate here. You could have said any number, and you chose a really high one? Like, I'm going to give you my car, and I'll give you $30,000 for it. Why?
Just take my Amex
It's
Black.
one accusation of slander. How much could it cost? 1,000 ducats?
Yeah.
I'm so glad we don't have to worry about pens anymore. Last thing before we really get into wide indoors and all that jazz. Shout out to the stag parties on the turntable. Shout out to the staging on the stag parties.
Yeah.
Shout out to the
Shout
crew.
out to the crew.
Shout out to that one actor who was like bare ass jockstrap on stage. You don't see it for very long, but he's on. But it's like full ass, and I'm like,
Claudio, you fucking hypocrite.
You know, I saw that scene and I was like, I don't need this, but also I'm at least equal opportunity.
Look, I love Claudio, but he's a fucking hypocrite, and he needs his head smashed into a table.
One of the things that I get iffy about is the way that there are a lot of, the more I watch of, it's one of the things about feminism is that the more that you notice it, the more you can't unsee it. And it's like there's problems in everything, and you're just sitting there going like,
I wish I could like things again.
How many characters in this who are played by women are also in various states of undress for no real reason? And how is that not true of literally anyone else? And that's true of so much media. So I think I have a little bit of I saw the first part of the bachelor party, which you see first, and you see Claudio receiving a lap dance. Yep. And I'm just like, this poor actress. Like, I mean, I know that people take the job for the taking of the job, but also there are fairly few roles for women on stage these days, especially the more modern productions, that don't ask for some amount of striptease. And it's like, must we in everything? And then they flipped it around, and then there was a Chippendales. And so I was like, okay, at least there's that, but I don't know whether that I had this double take in my brain where like, is that better? Or is that just equal opportunity bad? I don't know. And I'm not like trying to say that there shouldn't be sex or sexuality in like media and stuff. I don't know where the balance is. It's just sort of something that I like when I saw that scene, I just sort of started going.
At least in this point, if you want to take the reading of like Claudio is about to make a hypocrite of himself, if that's the reading you're aiming for prior to the creator, then having it be equal opportunity is at least making a point. So it's not like it's gratuitous. It's not like it's there just to be there, just to fill time, just to do a scene transition.
It should be noted that this production was directed by a woman.
That too.
Said woman did also direct the Mary Queen of Scots movie with Saoirse Ronan and Margot Robbie, so her feminism is... but
the equal opportunityness of it undermines that message if he's about to make a hypocrite of himself, because then it's, well, she went to a bachelorette party, which was a modern style bachelorette party. So what is this about her being in her room all night?
Bachelorette parties are very rarely the bride's job. They're usually the bridesmaid's job. So it would have been Margaret.
No, that's true. But the accusation is that she spoke to a man after midnight. What we see is the prince getting a glimpse of somebody actually being fucked, but we get in the text is she spoke to a man after midnight. And the entire wedding party, if we're in a world where bachelorettes go to a bachelorette party and there may be strippers there, what is the reason for that incredible amount of like, she spoke to a man after midnight, right? Like it starts to break down. I don't know. I didn't care for it very much, but also maybe that's me being prudish and I don't know.
No, it's okay. I will say there is a comedian named Janine Brito who at one point had a bit about male strippers and women's relationship with them.
Women with male strippers, like, most of the time, ladies aren't getting turned on it. Most are like, oh, he's a cutie patootie. But, like, it's mostly just like an, oh my God, Kathy, this is so out of character, like, bonding experience.
But yes, on to the ending, like, let's get back to it. Callie, I believe the words you used for how Ben and Beatrice handled, the realization of the whole scheme, but then having to be faced with the fact that they did write their love letters about each other as they would be exhausting to be around.
Yes, because they would, because I would strangle them.
The moment that, like, Betty is proposed, and Betty, darling, we gotta work on your timing, man. I will say, every time David Tennant has to do a love confession, it feels like it's just come out of his throat, and he's just like, wait a minute, what the fuck did I just do? Like,
oh god, feelings, oh no, no.
Is that not strange? It's like very much like a what the fuck did I just say?
I mean, they're both kind of playing it that way. It's so good.
And again, Catherine Tate's little, like, excitement scream dance thing that she does, which is so cute.
Together, guys.
Like, when they're still in denial and still, like, starting to do the dance they do, denying each other and rejecting everything, fucking the prince and dad just sort of stare up at the ceiling for a minute, like, oh god, these idiots. And then Dad, Claude, and Hero just give each other a look before they start going for the notes. They sort of give each other a look of, like, on God, just kiss, you idiots. Yeah.
When I was laughing at the funeral because, like, Benedict is like, this might not be the best time, but I love your really hot niece and I want to marry her. That is what I said in the chat, so.
Like, Benny darling, Ben, baby doll, we gotta work on your timing.
He's just Ben.
He's autistic. He doesn't know how. I made that joke.
We did make that joke.
And then we realized
someone photoshopped David Tennant into that sweatshirt and changed the K to a B.
He's just Ben.
And I did realize technically if you shorten
She's
Beatrice,
be enough.
Or Beatrice.
She's a Barbie.
And she is everything. She is a mess, but she is everything.
She is everything. He's just Ken.
But Ben's timing is never impeccable, and that's beautiful for him.
But
I love it.
And yet, in spite of them being exhausting, we're always happy that they finally get their shit together.
Because otherwise I was going to strangle them.
And then you have the one thing that Shakespeare comedies and DreamWorks animated movies from the Audies have in common. Dance party at the end.
Dance party!
Dance party, yeah.
Pseudo crazy little thing called love.
One last joke. David, put your tongue away.
I said, wait, hold on. Let's hold off on that. Let's not.
And then I said, no, he can only put it away if he puts it. And then I did brackets and unbelievably
The
censored.
redacted.
But Shakespeare would never censor that.
No, he put it in at least 3 layers of innuendo.
Innuendo, but I'm sorry.
Or 2 layers, and then it would get lost in translation.
Shakespeare understood the fundamentals that all people somewhere at one point or another are some combination of wanting to laugh, wanting to cry, or horny, and all of his plays were written with that in mind.
You're absolutely right. And speaking of those fundamental themes, why does this story endure?
Yeah. Benedict and Beatrice. It's Benedict and Beatrice.
Ben and B, and it's also really easy to adapt. It's a little nothing play.
Though apparently not to high school.
Yeah. Someone get me my high school production.
Miscommunication will always endure as a trope because it's a real life thing that actually happens to human beings that we can relate to. And secondhand embarrassment, as painful as it is a trope for a reason.
Because we do kind of enjoy watching people embarrass themselves just a little bit, even the more empathetic of us. And gee, Callie, it's almost like you're calling out half of the people who read romance books on Book Talk.
Don't open that crate of worms, man. It is too late in the night to open that crate of worms.
Fair enough. But yeah, Benedict and Beatrix are iconic.
I think that part of the big reason why they are iconic, because both of them give as well as they get. The entire play long. When that is spite, that's what they give, and that's what they get. And when that is adoring faces and also bewilderment, that's what they give, and that's what they get. And it's wonderful. And this is why we love the Addams family. You want them to match each other step for step, and sometimes, occasionally, try to kill each other.
It's the hold my flower, kick-ass baby, I got your flower.
Yes!
It endures for the same reason a lot of Shakespeare endures, which is that it's quite broad, the themes are universal, and there is something that we can all kind of relate to some degree. Just copy and paste that to any Shakespeare adaptation, because it's basically the same thing.
Very well put. Final thoughts?
This was a fun intro to Much Ado About Nothing.
Thank God for archive.org.
Yeah.
Thank God for archive.org.
Thank you again. Once again, saving this podcast is bacon.
Shout out to David Tennant and his stupid noodle body. Shout out to Catherine Tate and her many, many faces. And
David Tennant and Catherine Tate do a thing with the Muppets together. It should be them and Brett Goldstein. Those 3. That'll be amazing.
Shout out to Tom Bateman for being a little...
Shout out to Tom Bateman's
okay,
ass.
we said the same thing. I love that for us, River.
That too. I'm telling you, they're like they're alternate versions of each other. It's a little scary sometimes, folks.
I got raised well adjusted.
That's fair. Yeah, that's exactly. You were the second pancake. But yeah, no, this is a fantastic production. And Catherine and David, I look forward to seeing how you get reunited in the place where I first met you two.
There's already shaping up to be a scene about as half as funny
at
as
the windows.
They see each other, and it's poor charades, and that is trying to hide behind Mom, while David Tennant is like a half-foot taller than the actress playing Mom. It's like, who's the man standing behind you? No, it's nobody. You don't see anything.
Shakespeare and Doctor Who, they just always seem to be bedfellows somehow.
Literally.
57 academics
punch
just
their
punched
fist in the air.
I had to. It was right there.
Yes. Who's got stuff to plug?
Coming in 2024 to a podcast streaming service near you is going to be Postcards from Mystic Falls. On the heels of the Twilight Renaissance, we'll be revisiting the Vampire Diaries, the originals, and legacies. We'll be revisiting both the fun and problematic elements of this series, and we'll be exploring a universe that has just been finished by the CW, as it's been running from continuously in some form from 2011 to 2022. We look forward to seeing you in Mystic Falls someday.
I'd love to plug Worlds Elsewhere. I spend a good chunk of my personal time donating work to Worlds Elsewhere, which the wonderful news that SAG-AFTRA has concluded their strike with a tentative deal with the AMPTP. Worlds Elsewhere's activities are going to begin to resume as well. While Worlds Elsewhere is not a union shop, our repertory includes current and hopeful members, and we value their time and expertise as much as we possibly can, and so obviously we support the union's aim for better pay, stable work, reasonable residual rights and protections around usage of AI and related technologies. We're super excited to come back to making art for December and into the 2024 season. So check out worldselsewhere.com. You can support us there or on our brand new Patreon. Any donations that we can get fund us making the art that we love so much.
My wife Katie and I, we produce one-page RPGs and such on itch.io. You can find us under Third Country Press, where you can find some of our games, such as Cake or Death, Scum of the Earth, or our most popular game, Grandma Club. And you can also find me on Twitter, at Young Mr. Duffy. I will stay there until it burns to the ground, and then I will laugh in the ashes.
You can find me on IER's sibling show, 6 Degrees of Star Wars, where we discuss all the ways that George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. And I am bouncing around on social media and on YouTube under the moniker La Femme Fictionale. I also have a Patreon to that extent. And I'll also take this moment to plug supporting the actors through the Entertainment Community Fund and supporting victims in Gaza who are still living in a terrible situation that unfortunately is being funded by US tax dollars.
You can find me on Twitter. Again, I will also be there until it all burns to the ground and I will cackle in the ashes at Dreams Rebel. It is fully hockey season. You all know the drill. I've been on way too many of these recently. You can also find me on WordPress at filmlion.wordpress.com, where if you want to continue to hear my thoughts about media, specifically television at the moment, because I've been on a bender, you can find me there because I figured I should put that professional opinion haver moniker to good use.
And you can also find me on TikTok at Callie_Castle and on Tumblr at lucianmichelson.tumblr.com.
And as always, you can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and TikTok at Faye Riviera. And you can also follow this podcast on Twitter until the site burns down at IER Podcasts. If you've enjoyed all this chaos, first of all, why? I'm joking. That was a reference, people. In all seriousness, if you have enjoyed this podcast and you want to help us out financially, please consider joining our Patreon or buying me a coffee on Ko-fi, or even clicking the support this podcast link on the Buzzsprout site. If you are unable to, I cannot blame you. I mean, the holidays are coming up. You can still help us out a lot by spreading the word about this podcast, subscribing on the podcast listening app of your choice, and please reviewing it on the podcast app of your choice. Do whatever you can to help us reach the next chapter of our story. And speaking of, the holiday season is upon us. And what better way to get that started than by watching what is absolutely a Christmas movie, the 2021 film, The Green Knight. Can't wait to see you there. And remember, stories gain power in each retelling.
Think not on him till tomorrow. I'll devise brave punishments for him. Strike up! Oh, pipers!